Hello everybody, welcome to another lesson of A Level PE with me, Mr. Matt. Today we're going to be finishing our second part lesson of elite performers, so the development of elite performers in sport. And we're going to finish all the contents and hopefully you can then apply that to some more questions. You've got my screen shared in front of you. Just going to make that a little bit bigger for you. And we're going to go straight into it. So just a quick recap from what we did last week in particular. We looked at personal factors and social and cultural factors that may influence how someone may become an elite athlete and the difference between whether they actually succeed in their efforts or they don't. So we looked at a few personal factors and some of the things hopefully you can remember from our last lesson. In order to become an elite athlete, you need to have a lot of high characteristics such as determination, motivation, confidence. You need all of these in abundance in order to be able to even have the chance of succeeding. If you don't have these personal factors, it is unlikely that you will get to that elite level. Moving on quickly to the social and cultural factors, you need that support network from your friends, from your family. There's lots and lots of other things which can influence whether you actually make it to the top or not, including what's available to you in your area, what kind of coverage is available of sport in your country, and how sport is viewed in society itself. We also had a look at the National Sports Institutes. Hopefully you can remember that there's 4 of those, one for each country in the UK. So we have the English Institute of Sport, which we have talked about in depth. We looked at the Scottish Institute of Sport. We've got one in Northern Ireland and one in Wales. So there's 4 different institutes of sport. Hopefully you can remember also that there are different high performance hubs around the country. So in England, there are 8 high performance hubs in different places, such as Manchester, where they focus on individual sports or certain sports, such as cycling. These institutes of sports, you need to understand that they provide, and this is the key when you're answering your exams, you can't just say facilities, training, coaching. They are providing world-class performance enhancement. So you've got to actually name that in your answer. So world-class coaches, world-class facilities, high performance services, which everyone on the program can access at the elite level. They are also responsible for identifying talents around the country, and they run a number of talent identification programs. We looked at a couple of those in our last lesson, and we'll look at a few more of those in this lesson as well. They also have to have a partnership, or don't have to, but they collaborate with a number of other organisations, and we'll cover them today. So national governing bodies and UK sport. So this is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to look at national governing bodies in particular, what they do, how they assist in identifying talent and developing elite performers. They also, national governing bodies, they need to produce something called a whole sport plan, which they submit to Sport England in order to gain funding for what they are doing. We're also going to look at some more talent identification programs which are run by UK Sport, and we will be further identifying the advantages and disadvantages of these programs, which you will need for your longer answer questions. And we are then going to just discuss the World Class Performance Programme, which is administrated by UK Sport, the Gold Series, and talent identification. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to do all of those. They're kind of an add-on from a lot of them linked to some of the things we talked in our last lesson. Okay, Straight into it, national governing bodies then. As you can see down the side here, we've got our national governing bodies from the 3 sports we are interested in particular, which are football, tennis, and athletics. Each one of these national governing bodies have a number of ways which they can support elite development. Number one, all of them, if we link it to our last year's topic, all of them will have a quality policy to make sure that everyone does not face discrimination at all in any way, and they have the equal opportunities to take part. So if you think about our minority groups of women in sport, disability sport, and socioeconomic class differences, each national governing body will make sure there's something in place there for those minority groups, including ethnic minorities as well. All of these national governing bodies, they're trying to promote their sport. They're trying to increase the popularity and increase participation rates. And from them doing that, they will link into the UK sports aims and goals. So that's one of the reasons why they get funding for the work that they do. Some more than others, and we'll discuss that in the whole sport plans coming up soon. All of these also, in order to make sure that they are increasing participation, they have an opportunity to promote the positive role models within their sports. So they're looking at the elite performers, the top end, and they're trying to promote them in the best possible light to try to influence and encourage people to get involved and stay involved in sport, and hopefully then excel in the sport as well. They invest in facilities at grassroots level and at the elite level. So we're talking about facilities for community use, but also we're looking at facilities for the elite development as well. Each one will have a scouting network and coaching systems, which hopefully they'll be able to identify promising talent going through their systems and club systems, and hopefully producing athletes who could go further on to potentially be elite at the top of their level at some point. They also provide coaching awards and pathways. I know that the tennis in particular, they have a leveling system going from level 1 to 5. Level 1 is like participation rate through to level 5, which we're looking at elite level and mastering coaching. So through that system, they can be paired up with a similar ability of clients. They would provide and do provide competitions and tournaments, again through from grassroots to the elite level, and trying to encourage more participation. And they could also provide financial support to those athletes. I've got a little task for you straight away. So you're going to have 10 minutes now to have a quick look at what your sport does to develop talent and elite athletes. So you're going to go onto Google. You have 10 minutes for this. Find your sports national governing body's website and have a look to see what they do to develop their athletes. They should definitely have something on there about what they are doing. So 10 minutes. Set the timer, and I'll be back with you soon. Okay, students, welcome back. Hope you've all used that time wisely and you've managed to have a look at what your sport does, in particular to develop elite athletes uh, in the different ways. If we just look at a couple of ideas, so if we look to the FA, the Football Association, they have their St George's Park Elite Centre, where they've got all of their facilities on hand. I suppose it's very similar to an Institute of Sport, uh, where it's got high level facilities for football in different areas. And it's a great facility, and again, they leave no stone unturned in trying to develop their elite performers in that area. They obviously also do, they've got a lot of coaching networks and scouting, especially linked to the club system. If you think about football as a real leader of trying to unearth talents because of the financial gains, so many different ways of developing players through their system. So pretty much all football teams will have football academies going all the way through from a really young age to the elite system. Moving on. So I mentioned earlier about a whole sport plan. So a whole sport plan is a plan that every national governing body submits to Sport England. And why do they do that? Well, they submit it so they can get funding. So they're trying to get more money so they can deliver their programs. Why does Sport England give them money? Because they are feeding into Sport England's aims of trying to increase participation, and especially with our minority groups. So the whole sport plan is a 4-year plan, which runs, and they have a number of criteria that they have to meet to get different levels of funding. And the plan generally is an outline of how they're going to achieve their objectives throughout those 4 years. In particular, how they're going to nurture that young talent and increase their participation rates. The most successful sports plans, the ones who achieve and get given more funding, will be ones that link to the minority groups, because that's directly linked to Sport England's aims. There is a link here. So at the end of this presentation, you can come back and you can link into the whole sport plan, and you can see the different criteria that's set by Sport England. For example, 20% of funding is directly related to the achievements of the last sport plan. So if a national governing body didn't meet their objective last time, then 20% of their funding that they're asking for would be dependent on those objective outcomes that they intend to make. So a whole sport plan is a 4-year plan outlining their objectives to nurture young talent, in particular looking at increasing participation in minority groups, and how they're actually going to achieve that. Now, whole sport plans are actually made available online, and if you put in Google again, whole sport plan UK, and you will be able to see the different sport plans from a number of national governing bodies. I'm going to give you a 10-minute task again to research a governing body, a national governing body, whole sport plan, and come back with the outcomes and what you feel are the important features of that plan. Okay, 10 minutes to do that. Please do take this seriously. The whole sport plan is a very common question in the exam papers, from anywhere between 4 to 8 marks generally, depending on the details of each one. So I'm going to start that timer for you. 10 minutes starts now. Enjoy. Okay, students, welcome back. Your time is up. Hopefully, you've managed to access one of the whole sport plans from one of the national governing bodies and have a good read about what their outcomes and objectives are for the 4-year plan that they have provided. Remember, whole sport plan provided by every national governing body and sent in to Sport England to gain funding. Obviously, the more the word I'm looking for, the more extreme their objectives. Extreme, maybe probably not the best word, but ambitious. More ambitious their objectives, the more potential they are to get funding, as long as they're able to deliver and execute that program. Of course, if they're unable to deliver their program and what they say in the 4 years, the following round of funding, they're unlikely to get as much, considering 20% is based on their previous performance of their objectives. Okay, what you need to remember is talent identification is not just an isolated theme for one organisation. It's a coordinated approach between national governing bodies, UK Sport, and the National Institutes of Sport. So all of them work together to try to develop that talent. Because obviously, if everyone's doing it and everyone's on the same page, they're more likely to unearth those talented people at a younger age, which will obviously should lead to greater success at the elite level. So it's a coordinated approach. Some of the benefits then, well, that screening and testing of those performers, if it's a coordinated approach, we can test more people, and we can then identify the athletes which we think are likely to be able to go on to succeed at the elite level, and they can be supported. So I think about what kind of physiological differences may be an advantage in certain sports, and think what they could be. So physiological advantages in certain sports, can you think of any? Hopefully you're already thinking about things like muscular endurance, the components of fitness, maybe physical differences, so the height of someone, and a few of the programs, a few of the campaigns which UK Sport and the Institutes of Sport sort of ran are related to, well, there's two in particular which I'm thinking about. Number one is Tall and Talented, and the second one is Sporting Giants, where they're both campaigns are looking for athletes who are very tall, who also have good components of fitness. So if you think about what kind of advantages those people may have for certain sports, well, if you think about sports like basketball, volleyball, handball, rowing, these are all looking for those elite athletes who are tall in nature. I'm just going to share another screen with you related to campaigns. Just give me a moment. Okay, here we go. Here are some of the previous campaigns that UK Sport have ran. Since 2007, the UK talent team have been working with a number of athletes and a number of organisations to try to recruit people into certain sports. And they've run a number of sports depending on the need at that time and the popularity. So you need to know a couple of these at least. On the exam papers, you might just get a 1-mark question, like name a talent identification program that UK Sport have led. That could be a very simple one. One might be name and explain. So you need to know at least a couple. So you guys can, in a second, have a look at a few of these campaigns and talk to you about a couple of them. which we've already mentioned. Number 1, Tall and Talented and Sporting Giants. So those are the ones I've just mentioned. Another one is Pitch to Podium, and this is an interesting concept. So if you think about pitch to podium, so what kind of sports are played on a pitch? Well, this particular initiative was aimed at athletes from football and rugby who have maybe dropped out or were unsuccessful in going on to the next stage from their academy. So looking at younger ages between 16 and 18 who didn't quite maybe get onto the full scholarship of an academy player. So rather than them just dropping out of football or rugby completely, this was aimed at trying to recruit some of those people who probably already got a high ability in physical fitness and good coordinated skills. Okay, I'm going to share my main screen back with you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes in a second to research this one, Girls for Gold. We're going to listen to Jessica Ennis-Hill, first of all, on why she thought girls should sign up, and then you're going to have another little research for 5 minutes.
To make it as an elite athlete takes a lot of time and focus. You need to be sure of what you want to do, and you need to have those goals set out for yourself, but you need the support, you need people around you, you need the funding, your family, your coach to help you get there. But yeah, you definitely need to be very determined.
Personal and social factors.
I think my message to anyone that's considering joining Girls for Gold is just give it a go, get involved. You know, if you're competitive, if you're active and you want to try something new, you don't know whether, you know, it might be an amazing sport for you. You might have a great talent for it and be really successful. So I would definitely urge you to just go and give it a go. You've got nothing to lose.
Okay, a very quick one now then. So have a little research about Girls for Gold. What exactly are they looking at? Who they are trying to attract into what sports? Girls for Gold, 5-minute task. Okay, you are back with us, hopefully. So from your research, hopefully you found out that the girls for gold was looking for females who would be chosen for 4 different sports. Those sports were canoeing, bobskeleton, rowing and sailing, and the modern pentathlon. So they were the 4 sports that they were looking for, and they were looking for females between the ages of 17 and 25 who are currently or who were currently competing in any sport to either county or regional level. So they were looking at cross-transferable skills of fitness. They also said that people needed to be powerful, fit, strong, mentally tough, and competitive. So we're looking at those personal characteristics again that are coming up. The idea was that they were looking to try to unearth female talent who are capable of achieving medal success in the Olympic 2012 Games. And it went through an application process, and then they would recruit and narrow these applications down to a training day where there'll be further physical tests that are given and created. Okay, moving back onto our presentation. I promise you there's not actually long left of this. We've got a few more slides to share with you. So we've already talked about a number of ways and methods of testing talent and the benefits of testing talent, but there are some problems with testing talent as well, which you need to be aware of. You think about trying to test the whole population, nation, there's going to be problems associated with that. Hopefully you can think of a couple. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about what kind of problems there may be. Okay, problem number one then. Problem number one is that many of these talent identification programs, they focus on physiological data. We've already said that that will favor early developers, people who've already been exposed to certain sports, or people who were born earlier than others in that age category. It's also going to assess their current performance. So it's not looking at their potential for future performance. It's only looking at what they are currently at. So again, those who have not been exposed to particular skills, they're not going to be able to assess what their capabilities would be. And because they're focused on so many physiological data, we've already said that to be an elite athlete, you need to have a lot of personal factors and social and cultural factors as well. So the limited psychological assessments that are done are not really an indication of those kind of characteristics of people. So it's generally heavily focused on physical performance and current physical performance as well. There's that limited assessment of the ability to learn, so the potential of people to develop further. And another one, which is probably common, you probably thought about, is the logistics. Think about trying to test the whole nation of people at a particular age group. That's going to be difficult logistically. It's going to be expensive. You're going to miss a lot of people out. And even with all of these things in place, it's not going to guarantee success of unearthing that talent as well. Okay, moving to the performance pathway. The world-class performance pathway. Again, this is a very common question in a lot of exams. You're seeing 2, 3, 4 mark questions about the performance pathway. Some are talking about just naming the levels. Some are talking about actually describing what they are about. So the world-class performance pathway is a UK sport initiative that's directed by UK Sports, and the reason they're doing this, the world-class performance pathways, try to assist with expert coaching, leadership, support services, but also financial help to athletes. There's different levels depending on where you're at, and the different levels would attract different kinds of funding. One is world-class podium. So if you're in the world-class podium, you're likely to achieve a medal in the next Olympic Games. So that's a maximum of 4-year program. So you are likely to achieve a medal in those Olympic Games, the upcoming Olympic Games, whenever that may be. The second level down is going to be world-class podium potential, where this is you're likely to achieve a medal at the following Olympic Games. Again, you need to be in that category of medalists, because that's what UK sports are about, and that's how they measure their success of elite performance on the world stage, and that means medals and winning and breaking records. So you need to know world-class podium and world-class podium potential. There is a level underneath that, which is called performance foundations or performance talent stage, which is basically the process underneath unearthing that elite talent. So talent identification, we're looking at confirmation through the different levels in order to get to the top 2 levels. This is what it looks like in visual form. So at the top, we've got podium, world-class podium. Don't forget the world-class podium, world-class podium potential. And then we've got the foundation stage here, which is called the talent pathway. Linking from the bottom, which we would potentially call grassroots sports, community sports and schools. They would link in to the next stage, which would maybe be county programs or clubs in particular, linking into regional areas, and then they would have another level based on those foundations. Okay, just a bit more about what it is. Again, Jessica Ennis-Hill is featuring heavily on this presentation, a good role model and example to use.
The funding and lottery funding has made a huge difference to what I've been able to achieve so far in my career, just through having the support medically, having great physios and masseurs on hand to make sure I can train to my best, having that support on teams when I'm away competing at championships, having great facilities to train in, track time to allow me to do all the training that I need to do for all my events. All these things brought together has had a huge impact on my career. I think it's really important for Britain to be successful at the Olympics and Paralympic Games. As we demonstrated in London, we were able to host an amazing Olympics and Paralympics, and the athletes were able to deliver as well, which was fantastic. And, through the funding and the world-class programs that we have in this country, that enables us to reach our full potential. I definitely think elite sport can inspire people, whether young kids or young adults want to get into sport in a competitive way or just a recreational way to keep fit, or to be the best they can be in their sport. I think that elite athletes are great role models for so many people. I think it'd be incredibly hard for British athletes to be as successful as they have been without the world-class programme and the funding, just simply because it allows the athlete to just train and focus on what they need to do without the worry of the funding, finding sponsorship and funds to be able to train. Athletes having to have part-time jobs and doing lots of other things detracts away from their training. So that funding really has a huge impact.
So there was Jessica Ennis-Hill there explaining the world-class programme and the importance of funding. So think about giving money to athletes. What does that enable them to do? Well, first of all, it removes those barriers. You don't have to work. You can really focus on your training. You can access the support services that are available from the English Institute of Sport. You can get your coaching to the highest world-class level. You can get your physiotherapists, your nutritionists. You can get all of that access through the world-class performance programme, and that's how it develops those athletes. UK Sport also run a gold event series, and you do need to know about this as well. It is on the specification. So gold event series, what is that about? Well, basically they are international events, but hosted by UK Sport in the UK. You think about athletics events, and if you're hosting to a high level and you're trying to attract international competitors, what's that going to do for the performers? Well, it's going to prepare them, isn't it? It's going to give them lots of competition at high level. It's going to give them an example of what it's going to be like competing in the Olympic Games. It's going to give economic opportunities for the community development as well. And through that, the Gold Event Series, don't forget that name, Gold Event Series, the UK Sport have already committed to investing £40 million to host those events in the 10 years from 2013 to 2023. So the Gold Event Series supports high-profile sporting opportunities, obviously increasing role models, but also providing economic opportunities for community use as well. The final slide before we move on to a couple of questions is don't forget the main roles of UK Sport. What are their main roles and responsibility? Because they've got a lot of them. You look at their job list there. There's a lot of different things that they do. The main thing is they are trying to coordinate between the organisations. They deliver talent identification programs, looking at widespread testing at different age groups, scouting networks, quality coaching networks. They give and provide centres of excellence around the UK. There's 4 of those. They promote equal opportunities for everybody. They're trying to also look at promoting ethics and standards of fair play, including the 100% Me program, which we'll talk about in drugs and sport, which are trying to educate athletes on what they need to be taking in their diet to avoid any negative doping tests. They will produce a database so they can compare current athletes with previous athletes and potential for them to go further and to place them on the World Class Performance Program network if they get that far. They do offer that performance pathway where they offer funding for those athletes. And leading on to our questions. So question number 1, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of introducing structured talent identification programs to support and develop the development of elite performers. So questions like this are very common, especially with the command word of discuss or explain. Sometimes they won't give you these advantages and disadvantages. They would just assume that you know it. So if a question says discuss or explain or critically analyze, you do need to give for and against or advantages and disadvantages. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to get them higher marks. So here with a question of 5 marks, this would be a 2-3 split either way. So you need to give the advantages and disadvantages of these talent identification programs. We have discussed some already, so I'll just go straight to the answers. So advantages of a talent identification program: you can potentially screen all the performers. You can direct them to certain sports depending on their components of fitness. You can highlight potential athletes, and you potentially could produce elite athletes to compete on a world stage. And there's also that coordination between the different organisations, for example, UK Sport and national governing bodies. There are disadvantages. It can be expensive. You've got a lot of people to organise, and the logistics can be a problem. You may miss those late developers. And even if you do this program, it may not guarantee success. Probably the main one for me is they do have a focus on physiological development initially, so they miss those personal factors and social factors which were originally discussed. Question number 2. Explain how UK sport attempts to fulfil its aims of developing world-class performers. How does it do? So basically, what does it do? And we just summarize what it actually does, and that would get you a mark for each one of those. Question number 3, although it's got number 4 here. Competing at the highest level is expensive. How are elite amateur performers funded in the UK? So I've put this one in here because the athletes on the World Class Performance Programme, a lot of those are amateur performers. Now you may turn around and think, well, amateurs, they don't get paid, but the blurring of the amateur definition these days allows amateur performers to get paid in different kind of methods, as long as they are kind of funding their lifestyle and able to focus on their performance. So they may not necessarily be gaining financial gain, as in savings, but they will get an allowance in order to allow them to participate. So how can these elite amateur performers, how can they get money? You think about different ways they potentially could get money. Well, we've already discussed in this one the fact that they can get money through World Class Performance Programme. They can also get direct money from the National Lottery grants in the forms of Athletes Awards. Just flick to the answer scheme, mark scheme here. They could also get sponsorship opportunities, family investment, we kind of talked about as well. You can get scholarships, which offer financial gain. And if you are successful, you might be able to get appearance money or prize money as well. So these are the different ways that elite amateur performers of the modern era can gain funding. Finally, you can click the link. This will take you through to the Kahoot quiz, which I've set for you. This will give you a range of multiple choice questions. Again, you're guaranteed to be the winner, so please do go and play this, but I'm more concerned with whether you get the answers correct. And finally, do take time to look through these definitions, ingrain them into your head, because they are very easy 1-mark answers, but also you can put them straight into your longer answer questions as well. That's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson today, and look forward to seeing you soon and producing some more online videos. Have a great day ahead and see you soon.